people on the planet, you have those who have your melanin dominance in the skin versus failed melanin dominance. That's the only two key differences, because everybody else that derives from eumelanin, which we call original people or whatever, that's from the darkest black to the lightest yellow. And then you have the Caucasians who we refer to as red or whatever, because the Tyrians, or if you look them up in like Bible, Egyptian text, the Tyrians are referring to the Caucasians, those who had the red hair, freckles, things of that nature. Esau and his people, whatever. But basically, we refer to those in my quantum dictionary as pheomelanin people versus eumelanin people, which are the black ones. And so then we said, all right, so as original people, the term I've selected for that is human nativity. So we got two contract words or whatever, both fact, that are made into a compound fact. And original people is basically you saying the nativity, the origin, the birth of human breaking down to mean good creature of the planet Earth. All right, and then so basically by breaking those words down to their base meaning or whatever, now I have a factual statement. So I've gone from a fictitious statement of we teach that the black people are the original people of the planet Earth, even though that's how we talk every day. The only way for that to be mathematically verifiable forward and back is to translate that into, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the melanin people with the human nativity of the planet Earth with the election by the 5% nation. All right. Number two, we teach that the black people are the fathers and mothers of civilization, and that translated is, for these teachers' knowledge of these facts is with the claim of the melanin people of the parentage and equality, spelled AEQUALITY, because with just the E it would be a no contract word. But a lot of words that started with E, they originally had the A and the E, because the A is actually a life force that's being put before the thinking, because anytime you just put the vowel before a word, you're putting the thinking before the word or whatever. So it's like, so then your volition can be wonky.
Is that what you were just telling me about that?
Yes, yeah. So it's like, so if it's a single vowel or whatever, then that's because you're putting the thinking before the word. But then now, by putting another vowel in front of it, that's the life force behind the thinking. Therefore, there's a cause and a concern. Or whatever. You have to have both a cause and a concern for your verb. All right, and then a verb can be any word in the English, any contract word in the English language. All right, and so anyway, so the parentage and equality of the civilization with the election by the 5% nation. Like 3, we teach that the science of supreme mathematics is the key to understanding man's relationship to the universe. Translated would be, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the cognition with the authority limit of the knowledge struction with the solution of the conception with the elation of the human and cosmos with the election by the 5% nation. And then backwards, of course, being for the 5% nation of the election is with the human and cosmos of the elation with the conception of the solution with the knowledge struction of the authority limit with the cognition of the claim with the facts by the teacher's knowledge. So once again, mathematically verifiable front and back. What's up?
Hi.
We teach that Islam is a natural way of life, not a religion. That would translate into, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the peace, with the nativity of the way, with the life of the freedom fact, with the election of the 5% nation. And what's particularly interesting in there is Islam is a non-contract word because it begins with that single that single I. And so if you did actually look at what the meaning of it is, it translates ultimately down to peace. However, peace is the absence of confusion. So which, once again, we know that the only way to be absent of confusion is mathematics. So once again, that confirms that Islam is mathematics. All right. And then way of life, not a religion. So having that not in there, that's a negation. So instead of putting not something, you would have to find what the opposite of it is. And then incidentally, because religion means binding, and because if you type in on Google the antonym for religion, the word fact actually pops up.
Do you know people used to actually argue with me when I tell them that Islam is not a religion?
It's not a religion.
It's a way of life.
Yeah. See, in the Nation of Islam, it gets a little tricky, but then really that's what they were trying to teach with 5% Nation. Like, it's a natural way of life, not a religion. And the opposite of religion in this case would be freedom, fact, and then with election by the 5% Nation. 5, we teach that the science of education should enable us to become self-sufficient as a people. Translated as, for these teachers, knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the cognition, with the conduction of the authorization, with the humiliating people of the life, with the autonomy of the nation, with the election by the 5% Nation. All right. So certain words as they use, like authorization, that AU is probably one of the most important things, the authority over things. And then the reason that gold has a symbol AU instead of a G is because they used to have that saying that he who held the gold held the authority. And so, but then the value of gold was assigned by people because you had to have the knowledge of what authority was in the first place in order to be able to assign authority. And therefore, if you have authority over yourself, if you have authority over the mathematics, you hence have authority over all things, since the mathematics is God, or whatever at the end of the day, because that's the fact, or whatever the fact of God. Then you hold the goal because you have the authority over all things at that point. And so that's where the AU and that comes from. And then autonomy, which is basically authority over self at the end of the day. And then a people, in this case, people translating that to nation. Should enable, we're translating that to authorization. Education, since that's a no contract word, got to E, we're translating that to conduction or whatever. So to duct with, to transport between. So you're basically transporting that, the base word is duction, but then we're transporting it to each other, because education can be you teaching somebody something or you're being educated. So that covers both of them, conduction. All right. 6, we teach each one should teach one according to their knowledge, which translates to, for these teachers, knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the people, with the conduction of the human, with the one quantity of the authority, with the possession of the human's knowledge, with the election by the 5% Nation. And then you may notice here, like when we say each one, we're talking about the everybody, so that's the people as a single word. And then should teach one, and in that case, we're talking about a single individual, so we basically denote that as the one quantity, so that is associated with that human there. And then one, you may notice that I have it spelled O-E-N or whatever. That's actually an original spelling of it. That is a contract version, because once again, the way we spell one is a no contract word, O-N. But that original spelling was actually that O-E sound. That's where our W sound comes from, when. So one. All right. According to would be authority. Their own would be possession. So on and so forth. Now this one's important. So we teach that the black man is God, whose proper name is Allah, which means arm, leg, arm, head. Translated, that comes to, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the humiliating man, with the equality of the authority limit, with the correction of the noun, with the nomination of the, of the law. So L-A-H. All right, because all, A-L, that's in Allah. See, Allah would be a no contract word, but see, the all actually means the. So the part is actually covered in the for the law. So for Allah, for the law. And so
means the all.
Well, see, all is a no contract word. So what this actually reveals, so if you break down the words arm, leg, and head, since it's arm, leg, arm, head, just not to be redundant, the word arm breaks down to flesh. Leg means ligature, which is basically a connection or whatever, or a binding. And then head comes from guide or leader. All right. So it's basically, so law, leg, arm, head is basically saying that it's the binding of the leader, the guide, the cognition to the flesh. Or whatever. So that's what's expressed by that arm, that leg, and that head. All right. So we, and then law. So that's the same root word that the word law comes from, language comes from, all of that. So that's how you see the connection between God and the authority of the law. All right, so it's all right in there. It was just about the breakdown of what these words mean. All right, and then so 8, we teach that our children are the link to the future, and that we must our link to the future, and that we must nurture, protect, love, and respect them. Respect and educate. Nurture, respect, love, and protect them, and educate them. I'm mixing that up a little bit, but you get the basic gist of it.
Yes.
And then, all right, so that translated is for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the Umelanin people with the semen, or whatever, because incidentally, semen actually is the word for children. That's where we get seed when we talk about our children. All right, so it's with the claim of the Umelanin people with the semen of the Lation, which is a connection, a link of the Lation, with the materiality of the corporation with the election by the 5% nation. And that has to be broken up into 2 sentences because you have 2 thoughts in there. And so the second sentence, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the Umelanin people with the ligature of the nutrition, with the favor of the compassion and conservation, with the heritage of the semen, with the election by the 5% nation. All right, so some non-contract words that translate otherwise. So semen is the closest thing you have to children when related to seeds/progeny, because incidentally, a lot of words that we use for like a child and things like that only refer to a male child. So it doesn't refer to, a female child or multiple children or whatever. So that was interesting. And let's see, lation. So lation comes from the root word lattice. I mean, they're having to do with a line. So a link is a line being drawn between 2 points. And then lation is also a word used to show movement between of a celestial body. So when a celestial body moves from one point to another, we call that lation. And so all lines are actually just representative of a single point moving from one point to another. So that's something that you remember from graphing and stuff.
But linear.
So linear, it all comes from that same root. So line derives from that same lateral root initially, you know what I'm saying? But that's an illusion in and of itself, because it's basically just a single point that's moved from one point to another, and that line just represents that. All right. So that's how we show our connection between 2 things. Then let's see. So future. So we say our link to the future, but then the future doesn't exist or whatever. That's a
right. So
that's a no contract. And so
it's not factual that we're linked to the future.
So
that's why you tell me that it's the now. That's the important thing.
Yeah, so how you bring it to the now is the word corporation, because in that case you're talking about your corporal existence, which is your ongoing mental and physical coexistence or whatever. So basically the joining of your mind and your body, that's your corporal existence or whatever. So that infers that you have been and you will continue to be or whatever, but then it keeps it in the now. So that's why we use that word corporation in that case. And then we must, it says in that we must nurture them. So we use the word ligature, so that's a binding. So must is a binding word. Nurture, nutrition, so that's the actual noun form of that, the actual raising or rearing of that child. Respect, that's a non-contract word because you got that re in there, so favor is what we use for that. Love breaks down to compassion. That's one the closest word. Protect or whatever. Pro is the actual root word is tect or whatever. So
a lot of that is in the 42 laws.
It's all derived from this. And so the best word for that is conservation. and so on and so forth. And then finally, this is one we were talking about earlier. So we teach that the unified black family is the vital building block of our nation. And then the contract version of that is, for these teachers' knowledge of the facts is with the claim of the melanin people of the concrescence. That's a word that it's like same root word as concrete, like so instead of unified, which is a non-contract word, we call that concrescence instead of unity. All right, so concrescence. So with the claim of the melanin people, with the concrescence of the plantation, and we talked about that earlier, how plantation is actually the word derived from Latin planta that actually means family.
And family means servant.
Yeah, so this is why we're not using the word family. Like plantation wasn't something that you were supposed to have service on. It was literally the actual word for the family, you know, the man, woman, child of the original people. All right, so with the claim of the melanin people, with the concrescence of the plantation, with the vitality of the construction, with the component of the nation, with the election of the 5% nation. All right. And so basically that's what we teach translated into quantum speech, such that if you translate each individual word into any language or whatever, it'll still line up mathematically. Like if I find out what the word for election is in Chinese, or if I find out what the word for...
See, we are constantly learning around here. I mean, constantly respect all altars. That's in the 42 laws of Ma'at. We have been here studying for how long? For about 3 hours?
Yeah.
About 3 hours. We have gone from the Quran to Dr. York. What else did we go over?
King James, we went through
King James,
economics,
the Bible, economics,
grammar.
our Viking,
Viking
grammar, everything.
Movie. Basically covered the universe.
We covered everything, baby. We're constantly learning here. I'll check y'all later. We got to continue.